Hey guys, daskro here. A few weeks ago I did a top 5 multiplayer wish list for Battlefield 4, and while I had my own wish list, I wanted to ask you guys what your top 5 wish list would be for Battlefield 4. To recap, my wish list was, at number 5, I wanted FNFAL. At number 4, I wanted vehicle camos. At number 3, I wanted spectator tools. At number 2, I wanted more gameplay balance. And at number 1, I wanted a multi-tiered ladder matchmaking system so we could have a better Battlefield experience. Now, a lot of you liked my wish list. A lot of you agreed with a number of my things. Some of you didn't agree with some of them, but a lot of you did. So I'm not going to reiterate what I had already mentioned, but instead I'm going to hit the top 5 things that you guys wanted that really don't fall into my wish list. At number 5, more teamwork. A lot of you mentioned a number of different things like larger squad sizes, commander mode, more incentives to play as a team within Battlefield 4. The way I sort of vision it is, I want you as a player to be incentivized to work within your squad and your team. One of you said, hey, why don't you create an incentive system where you get more points if you do more good things closer to the proximity of your other squad mates? I like that idea. I like the idea of incentivizing players who play as a team because Battlefield is a team game. Another idea on teamwork that I really liked was we want VoIP. A lot of people said they want VoIP, and I agree. I want VoIP or some comparable system so you can play as a squad and talk to each other over voice comms. And I don't mean like talking and talking shit and stuff. I actually mean like working together and saying, let's push Bravo, let's defend Alpha, let's get in the tank together, those kind of things. Some of you said, well, why don't we even have headset-only servers? Now, I know that may be controversial to some of you, but I actually like that idea. I think it's really cool, and maybe you have a headset-optional server, whatever it may be. I don't want to have a situation where you have to have a headset and have to use it or else you can't play, but I do like the idea, because remember guys, back in Battlefield 2 when that game came out, it came with a headset. Check it out, here it is. Moving on to number 4, dynamic weather and more destruction. People want to be able to experience a game in the rain, in a hurricane, in a tornado, at night, at day. Maybe in a snowstorm, maybe in a hailstorm, maybe as you're walking through, the hail hits you and it takes little tiny amounts of damage to you. I don't know. I also like the idea of topography destruction. For those that played the Battlefield 3 Alpha, there actually was topography destruction, and you could, no kidding, put an SC4 down and build a trench, and you could be standing in the trench and they couldn't see you. Now, there was a lot of technical problems with this, which is why they scrapped it, but I want that back. I think that's really cool. I'm all for it. At number 3, more guns, more vehicles. Things like more pistols, like a Deagle or a USP or CCD2 and P26. The SIG guns, whatever it may be. British guns. We want flamethrowers, more camo options for guns, and things like that. But some of you also said, well, I want more gun realism. For instance, some of you correctly asserted that the burst fire mechanism within Battlefield 3 is not accurate to its actual representation in real life. This is true. It would be cool if it was correct, but we'll see how it goes. Also, more recoil. That would be kind of cool too, depending on how it works. And I know, guys, that when you're looking at PC versus console, it's very hard to balance all of that. But a push towards more guns and more gun realism isn't a bad thing. At number 2, less randomness. One of the things that makes a great esports game, and more generally a great game for fairness and balance, is less randomness. A great example of this is bullet spray and suppression. With bullet spray, when you fire the gun and continue to fire it, the bullet deviation increases, which means that there is a pattern that your bullets will hit in a given radius, but it could be anywhere within that radius. And so it then becomes a game of chance as to whether or not your successive rounds actually hit their intended target, because there is a 20, 30, 40% chance that they may hit the target or may not. Suppression is very similar to this. Suppression is when you fire and it creates a haze around you, but it also increases your bullet deviation in the process when you fire. This is really hard to do, and I know a lot of you don't like these elements. And I have very mixed feelings about them, because at one point I do not. Because on one hand, I don't want them in because they make the game less fair. But on the other hand, it creates a sense of immersion, as well as creates a number of gameplay mechanics that create more variety in the game. Let me give you an example of how you could change suppression that could make it less random, but also still make it viable. What if suppression was only allowed to be given by the support class, using only a lighter heavy machine gun. So not using a generic weapon like a shotgun or a PDW, instead just for those traditional support class guns. I think that a lot of people would agree that that would be a good compromise. In this respect, support class could still do something different that no other class can do. It also means that I don't have to go assault class all the time because support class actually could do something pretty cool. Now, this is all presuming that Battlefield 4 has the traditional Battlefield 3 class structure. We don't know if that's the case or not. So these are the kind of things we have to think about when talking about less randomness. A few other things about less randomness beyond suppression and bullet spray that were mentioned were fixing the hit reg and the netcode and shooting behind cover. Those are all very valid things. There are glitch spots on many of the maps where just a small amount of your head could be peeking out, but you can get a line of sight and shoot people. That's not that fair. I really don't like it. Same thing with hit reg. When you're looking at people with very disparate pings, 200 ping difference, the netcode is set up in a way that could actually give an advantage to the higher ping player when using certain types of weapons. I know this is a big contentious debate, but I think the netcode does need to be reworked on the infantry side. The vehicle side, it's all server side. I like it. I think the netcode options need to continue to be surveyed, and I know it's not an easy solution. I know it's difficult, and there are a lot of options and pros and cons between each one. I simply implore DICE to keep on looking into it. Finally, the number one thing that you guys mentioned time and time again was more class and gun balance. For instance, snipers that can actually do one-shot sniping. No OP guns, assault and meta class separated like in Battlefield 2 and 1942. Buffing support, buffing recon, creating limited ammo for all the classes except for support. Many of the things that you guys mentioned are valid and do have an issue in one respect or another, be it at the very low end of played in public servers to very high-end competitive play. And again, it's not an easy fix. One of the things that I've noticed, and you can check out in my channel, is when you look at the highest levels of competition between PC and in PlayStation 3, the gun variety in PlayStation 3 is much more diverse compared to what you have on PC. Everyone on PC is running M16s and AEKs, whereas in PS3, you'll see people running KH-2002, running M16, running AEK, running AN-94. All these different gun varieties. Now, what can that tell us? It can either mean the gun variety is more balanced on PlayStation 3 than in PC, or it can mean that some of the gameplay dynamics between console and PC make certain guns, from an absolute sense, better than others on PC versus on console. Again, a very difficult problem to address. Now, I think one of the easiest ways that you can do this, and a lot of you mentioned it, was you simply increase the different types of classes out there. And that was a mainstay from Battlefield 1942 all the way up to Battlefield 2 and 2142. A lot more class variety, a lot more choices. As we continue to consolidate the number of classes, we're going to get to a situation where the variety of guns also becomes sort of consolidated. Sure, we have different guns out there, but just because we have a lot of variety doesn't mean they're going to be that much different. And it's very difficult to sort of create all these different types of guns when they all have to fit within a certain form factor of a given class. With so little information about Battlefield 4 known, it's very hard to make very absolutist statements such as the Stinger and Igla need to be buffed or need to be nerfed in Battlefield 4, or the shotguns need to be buffed in Battlefield 4, or anything else around those lines. We simply don't have enough information to make those kinds of judgment calls. We have to play the game and see, because in the end, creating better class balance and better gun balance is not an end state. No, it is a process that takes time from alpha all the way to post-release. It's a process that is collaborative in nature, with both the developers, the QA team, as well as us, the players. We're involved in this. As Battlefield 4 comes out and we get to play around with it in the beta or even in the alpha, keep an open mind and make observations of what is working and not working within the game. I hope to see all of you within the Battlefield 4 multiplayer, be it beta or the release, whatever it may be. Thanks for the comments, guys. I'll see you guys later.